फ्रेंड्स, आज हमारा वेबिनार का जो टॉपिक है आप सभी को पता है MSMED एक्ट। तो इस एक्ट के बारे में बताने के लिए, क्योंकि इस एक्ट के बारे में सही कहूँ तो मुझे भी ज़्यादा नहीं पता, तो इसलिए हमने सौरभ गोयल जी से रिक्वेस्ट की आज के जो हमारे मुख्य वक्ता रहेंगे सौरभ गोयल जी, इस एक्ट के बारे में हम सभी को बताएं। क्योंकि ये एक एक्ट है जो है तो 2006 का शायद, पर काफी लोगों को पता नहीं इसके बारे में, इसकी फंक्शनिंग कैसी है, इसकी कोर्ट्स कैसे काम कर रही हैं, ट्रिब्यूनल जो भी है, तो उसके बारे में जानकारी देने के लिए सौरभ गोयल जी आज हमारे बीच में हैं। सौरभ गोयल जी मूलतः हरियाणा से बिलोंग करते हैं, बट चंडीगढ़ में ही पढ़े लिखे, स्कूल कॉलेज यूनिवर्सिटी। सौरभ जी ने बैचलर ऑफ आर्किटेक्ट किया हुआ है, बैचलर ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर, मतलब आर्किटेक्ट भी हैं वो, और फिर LLB उन्होंने पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी से किया और 2008 से हाईकोर्ट में प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं। और आज सौरभ जी को मैं इनवाइट करता हूं कि हमारे बीच में जो ये एक्ट है MSME डेवलपमेंट एक्ट 2006, इसके बारे में हमारे बीच में अपना संबोधन रखें। सौरभ जी।
Thank you very much, Padam ji, and thank you, Nilesh ji, Karan ji, and all senior members of the bar. This is, I think, that I am the youngest amongst all. I have this privilege that in the High Court also, I have the guidance of all the seniors. And today also I was asked by Padam ji to present this topic. Earlier also I did it in the Adhivakta Parishad Study Circle. And this is one of the acts which is the most brief, only having 32 sections. And if we talk of advocates, for the practice point of view, the relevant sections are around 15, 16 sections only. The others are regarding the constitution of the board, that all are by the government. And prior to this act, if I just give little background, that this act came in 2006. It is not a case that the government legislated for welfare of small, micro and medium enterprise only in 2006. Prior to 2006, there was a 1993 Act, which was delayed Interest on Delayed Payments Act, which in short used to be. That 1993 Act was repealed in 2006 and this new Act came into being. The little background why this Act was legislated and why the earlier Act was repealed. With the changing international scenario, the business scenario and the markets were shrinking. Shrinking in the sense that they were coming close, and in India, like in the current scenario, we say that everywhere we listen this, that micro or the small enterprises are just getting bad and bad in shape in terms of their production, in terms of their financial capacities. So in 2006, the government decided to repeal 1993 Act, which only provided for interest on the delayed payments. As the term itself says, the Interest on Delayed Payments Act. In 2006, this act was constituted the new act, the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act 2006. Chapter 4 of this act, before coming to the definitions or the working of the tribunals and all, I would like to draw attention to chapter 4, which talks of measures for promotion, development and enhancement of competitiveness of micro, small and medium enterprises. This consists of section 9 to section 14. Yes. As we can see, the central government may from time to time, for the purpose of development and enhancing the competitiveness of micro, small and medium enterprise, particularly of the micro development of the enterprises, small enterprises, by way of development of skill in the employees management. So all this. So government came up with a view that in order to give some benefit to the micro and small enterprises, like their promotion and development, and if we see section 10, the credit facilities. Like during this corona also, we all have been listening to this, that government is giving credit facilities to the micro and small enterprises. They can walk in, they will get the loans without any collaterals, without any collaterals, and without any even surety of return of that money. The banks will not insist for 6 months for repayment and starting of their EMIs even. That you just take the loan, use that money, and your EMI will start after 6 months. This facility is being given to the micro and small enterprises. Next is procurement preference policy, section 11 if we see. What I have experienced during this practice on this MSMED side, several cases comes when micro or small enterprises are given preference over the large companies. In Haryana also, in Punjab also, in this, meaning thereby in this northern region also, and down south also, many companies whose production houses are in North India, they go down south only for the reason that now, because of this act, it is mandatory for them to purchase certain percentage of goods from a micro or a small enterprise. Like we all travel in Shatabdi. In Shatabdi, we all get the juice, the lemon juice or some juice kind of a thing. So that juice is also manufactured by a micro or a small enterprise. Railways has this policy that some of their items have to be purchased from micro or small enterprise. This kind of facility, this kind of concession to micro and small enterprise is actually working very good for them, for their sustenance, and even they're becoming from micro to small and from small to medium enterprise. They're increasing their outputs, they are employing more and more persons, and they are getting good exposure. And these all sections I would like to refer from this chapter. And now coming to the main, the legal aspect of this, the practice point of view or the legal aspect, the definition part of this act is section 2, and the most important subsections. Yes, this is the, if I can just scroll it down, section 2C, right, 2C. This is the board. There has to be a board, national board for micro, small and medium enterprises. This has to be established under section 3. What is the scope of this board? What is the job of this board, I would say? The job of this board is, like on 1st of June 2020, during this COVID, realizing that the definition of a micro, small and medium enterprise, as I would be referring to section 7 later, that provides that a micro enterprise, small enterprise and medium enterprise, they are based on their investment in plant and machinery. Prior to this, the definition of small scale industry was from the Industries Act, or as we say, Industries Development and Regulation Act 1951. Prior to 2006, in 1993 Act also, we were referring to the definition of a small industry from Industries Act 1951 only. There was no other definition of a small industry. In 2006, for the first time, definition of a micro enterprise was given in this act, in section 7. And thereafter, in 2020, on 1st of June 2020, there has been an amendment in section 7, and they have changed the definition of a micro, small and medium enterprise. Now, if we see section 2, After the definition of board, board means the National Board of for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise. The most important definition is the definition of buyer and definition of an enterprise. Who is a buyer? Buyer means whoever buys any goods or receives any services from a supplier for consideration. Very simple definition. Then the enterprise. Enterprise means an industrial undertaking or a business concern or any other establishment by whatever name called engaged in the manufacture or production of goods in any manner pertaining to the industry specified in the first schedule to the Industries Act 1951 or engaged in providing or rendering of any services or services. So the definition of an enterprise has been defined as a person who is engaged in any kind of a business. And also in the end, it talks of engaged in providing or rendering of services. Like we all are advocates, chartered accountants, architects, or any other professional. They are also giving services to certain institutions. We also do. In that case, prior to 2006, there was no mechanism to recover the amount in case we have given certain services to our client. Our payment gets delayed, our fees get delayed. We are providing services to a corporate, may not be to individual, I will not talk of that, to some corporate. Our payments get delayed, the fee get delayed. We can even get registered under this act and claim interest on that, can recover that amount merely by sending a notice, which is coming helpful for various professionals. I am doing a case of a chartered accountant who is a specialized person in a merger field, mergers and takeovers, having good reputation, but a very big multinational company only denied him his credit of around 50 lakhs by saying that you were to find a potential buyer for a company which you failed. And eventually he came to know that the buyer which he had brought in had actually purchased the company, had actually took over the company, but only for $1 Singapore. He was told that we have been able to sell our company only for a single $1 Singapore, and therefore we have not got any profits out of it. We will not give any fee to you. With the help of this act, he was able to file a case. Now he is fighting in arbitration. So now coming to next definition, section 2G, medium enterprise. Sorry, prior to 2G, it is 2E, enterprise. Yes. Enterprise means an individual. This we are 2E, we have done 2G, medium enterprise, sorry. Medium enterprise means an enterprise classified as such under subclause 3I of clause A or subclause 3I of clause B of subsection 1 of section 7. The relevant would be section 7 to define the micro, small and medium enterprise. The definition of enterprise is section 2E, and medium enterprise, micro enterprise and small enterprise, they all are defined in section 7 further. Definition of supplier, which is very, very relevant from the practice point of view. 2N. Supplier means a micro or a small enterprise which has filed a memorandum with the authority. This memorandum is defined in section 8. We'll come to that. Supplier means a micro or a small enterprise. We have to note here that medium is not covered in this. It is only for micro or small, which has filed a memorandum with the authority referred to in subsection 1 of section 8 and includes, this is very, very relevant, NSIC being a company registered under the Companies Act, Small Industries Development Corporation of a state or a union territory by whatever name called, Now this 3I is very, very important. Any company, cooperative society, trust or a body, by whatever name called, registered or constituted under any law for the time being in force, and engaged in selling goods produced by micro or small enterprise. Meaning thereby, I am not a service provider, I am not a manufacturer, I am only a supplier. But I am supplying the goods which are in turn manufactured by micro or a small enterprise. Even in that case, I will fall within the definition of supplier and rendering services which are provided by such enterprise. So the relevance of this will come in the later sections. Why I have pointed it out is that prior to this 2006, anyone who was engaged in a selling or providing services, one was only a trader or was providing only services, he was not covered under the definition of a small scale industry. So this was a big change in terms of the wide scale coverage now they have given to the, or the security which has been given to the small and micro enterprise. Now coming to section 7. We have section 7, classification of enterprise. Section 7.1 is the only relevant from the point of view of our, we all advocates. This section 7 gives the classification of enterprise. This starts with a non-obstante clause, notwithstanding anything contained in section 11B of the Industries Act, 1951. The central government may, for the purpose of this act, by notification and having regard to the provisions of subsection 4 and 5, classify any class or classes of enterprise, whether proprietorship, Hindu, undivided family, association of persons, cooperative society, partnership firm, company or undertaking by whatever name called. Now this A gives the definitions. This definition which is given in the act, this has been now amended by way of notification dated 1st of June 2020. I'll read from that. A micro enterprise where the investment in plant and machinery or equipment does not exceed 1 crore rupee. Here it was 25 lakhs. So with effect from 1st of July 2020, this will become 1 crore. And they have also added, and turnover does not exceed 5 crore. So investment in plant and machinery 1 crore and turnover does not exceed 5 crore. Similarly, for small enterprises, they have made the investment does not exceed 10 crore, which was earlier 25 lakhs, is more than 25 lakhs, but it was, I think, up to 2 crore, 5 crore. Now they have made it 10 crores. And their turnover, they have made it 50 crores. That one can fall within the definition of micro if his investment is 1 crore and turnover is 5 crore, and for small it is 10 crore and turnover is 50 crores. I will not refer to medium because medium may not be very relevant from the point of view of the practice. Now coming to section 8. Section 8, if this can be scrolled down, section 8. Yes. Now we were having the reference to the memorandum in the definition of supplier 2N. Who can file or who has to file memorandum? Any person who intends to establish a micro or a small enterprise may at his discretion, it is not mandatory, or a medium enterprise engaged in providing or rendering of services at his discretion, or a medium enterprise engaged in manufacture or production of goods pertaining to any industry specified in first schedule, shall, now the word uses shall, file the memorandum of micro, small, or as the case may be, of medium enterprise with such an authority as may be specified by the state government under subsection 4 or the central government under subsection 3. Provided that, because prior to this, all industries were defined as small scale industry under the Industries Act 1951. They all were registered. We used to see the SSI certificate. In normal parlance, the certificate used to be called SSI registration hai nahi hai aapka. This used to be the question, whether you are registered or not. So now they have done that if a person is registered prior to the commencement of this act as a small scale industry and obtained a registration certificate may at his discretion. Again, a person who is registered prior to this act, there is no compulsion that he has to again get registered and get a memorandum. His earlier registration will continue. An industry engaged in manufacture or production of goods, these all are given. And then the last 2B shall within 180 days from the commencement of this act file the memorandum in accordance with the provisions of this act. All the persons other than those who were registered prior to the commencement of this act are required to get themselves registered within 180 days. So this is regarding the filing of a memorandum. In that memorandum, the person discloses his place of business, his Aadhaar number, his PAN number, his bank account details. Why I am referring to all this is that recently the government has started a new portal, which is Samadhan portal, MSME Samadhan portal. What happens on that portal is that when a person sends a notice that my amount is due and you please pay this amount along with ABC amount of interest. In that case, a new option is now coming that government has tied up with a company in Bombay. In case of an award passed in favor of the supplier, an undertaking is taken that for proceeding against the other party, in case it is a company registered under the Companies Act, then that company sitting at Bombay will act on your behalf and file a petition in the NCLT for recovery of that amount under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. And this is getting very, very effective. From the time they have added this, this is not referred anywhere in the Act. This part regarding the NCLT and all, this is not referred anywhere in the Act. This is by way of the central government notification they have done it. And this can only be, we can find reference to this when we send a notice online. Because sending procedure, the notice procedure is entire online in this case. I'll refer to that again. Now, after section 8, the definition, I've referred to section 9 and chapter 4. Now we are coming to the most important chapter of this act. That is chapter 5. And I would first like to refer to section 22 of this chapter. Section 22. Yes. Requirement to specify unpaid amount with interest in the annual statement of account. Wherever the buyer, or we call it service receiver, gets his accounts audited, there are certain duties which are flowing from this section 22, which is required to fulfill. Where any buyer is required to get his annual accounts audited under any law for the time being in force, such buyer shall furnish the following additional information. This is very, very critical and important. In his annual statement of accounts, namely the principal amount and the interest due thereon, meaning thereby the entire responsibility is of the buyer. मैंने इतने का सामान खरीदा है और टाइम पे पेमेंट नहीं की. Now I will have to mention in my statement of account regarding the principal amount and the interest due thereon, remaining unpaid to any supplier at the end of each accounting year. Before going further, why I am referring to this section first is that the basic question, any law graduate when he passes out सबसे पहले क्या होता है, कोई भी हमारा जानकार हमारे पास आता है, 2-3 तरह के केसेस होते हैं जो जनरली एक फ्रेश लॉ ग्रेजुएट के पास आता है. वो कहता है जी मेरा कोई कंज्यूमर का मैटर है, मे बी हिज the plot or his flat and something like that. Maybe today it is RERA. दूसरा आता है कि मेरा कोई चेक बाउंस हुआ है, और तीसरा आता है if he is a businessman कि मेरी भाई कोई पेमेंट नहीं आ रही है and it is stuck. And first thing as a law graduate which we used to ask is that for how long it is due. Means we used to look for the limitation. कि भाई 3 साल से पुरानी पेमेंट है तो नहीं मिलेगी. This used to be our answer. But under the MSMED Act, the answer lies in this section. I'll read further. The amount of interest, 2I I am reading, 22 2I. The amount of interest paid by the buyer in terms of section 16, along with the amount of payment made to the supplier beyond the appointed day during each accounting year. The amount of interest due and payable for the period of delay in making payment which has been paid. This bracketed sentence is very, very important, the words, which has been paid but beyond the appointed date during the year, but without adding the interest specified under this act. Meaning thereby, someone owed me 1 lakh rupee, he paid 1 lakh, but did not pay interest on that. I have accepted that 1 lakh. It is his duty, in case he is getting his accounts audited, to specify in his account statement that though I have paid 1 lakh, but by making the calculation, 20,000 is the interest due for this period. This he is required to mention in his account statement. And in case he is required to mention this in his account statement, and he mentions, or even if he doesn't mention, the limitation will continue to run. Because the interest, which I will refer later in section 16, the interest is the compound interest, not the simple interest. So interest on interest will keep on accruing, and therefore limitation will never come in play, and there is no reference of any limitation in this act. This 4I says the amount of interest accrued and remaining unpaid at the end of each accounting year. That maybe 20,000 was the interest due. Out of that, I have paid 10,000. 10,000 is still due. The amount of further interest remaining due and payable even in the succeeding years, until such date when the interest dues as above are actually paid to the small enterprise for the purpose of disallowance as a deductible expenditure under section 23. Now, section 23 says interest not to be allowed as deduction from income. ऐसा नहीं है कि उसको जो इंटरेस्ट मैंने पे किया उसको खर्चे में दिखाकर मैं अपनी इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न में उसको रिफ्लेक्ट करूंगा एज एन एक्सपेंडिचर. इट इज नॉट परमिटेड. It is barred under section 23. Notwithstanding anything contained in the Income Tax Act, the amount of interest payable or paid by any buyer under or in accordance with the provisions of this act shall not, for the purpose of computation of income under the Income Tax Act, be allowed as deduction. So this act has an overriding effect over the provisions of the Income Tax Act also. Now, before referring to section 15 of chapter 5, I would like to refer to definition of appointed day, 2B. 2B. Yes. Appointed day means the day following immediately after the expiry of period of 15 days from the day of acceptance or the day of deemed acceptance of any goods or any services by a buyer from a supplier. Meaning thereby 15 days period has been provided for deemed acceptance. If the person has not recorded or not sent any objection the quality of your product or anything, then your payment is due after the it is the deemed acceptance of the material supplied or the services provided, that they were okay, the appointed day. For the purpose of this clause, the day of acceptance means the day of the actual delivery of goods or rendering of services, or where any objection is made in writing by the buyer regarding acceptance of goods or services within 15 days from the day of delivery of goods or rendering of services, the day on which said objection is removed by the supplier. Suppose there is some quality issue or some services have been provided, but they are not up to the mark, or there is some shortcoming which has been informed in writing, then from the day when that has been removed. So this was the definition of appointed day. This is the most important definition because this is the starting point of your dues. Now I can have section 15, 1.5. If we see from the language of this act, the entire liability is upon the buyer. सब कुछ उस पे छोड़ा है. वह तूने सामान खरीदा है एक माइक्रो या स्मॉल एंटरप्राइज से. It is your duty and your responsibility to make payment in time, to mention it in your account statement, not only the payment which is due, but also कितना उसके ऊपर interest भी देना है. Entire responsibility. So this is the pure welfare legislation. Section 15, liability of buyer to make payment. The heading itself makes it clear. Where any supplier supplies any goods or renders any services to any buyer, the buyer shall make payment therefore on or before the date agreed upon between him and the supplier. Like in the agreement we say that, or under the bill it is mentioned that the payment terms will be 30 days, 2 weeks or 45 days or maybe 60 days. Why I am referring to more than 45 days, that the next line is very important. In writing or where there is no agreement in this behalf before the appointed day, provided that, this proviso is the most important, provided that in no case the period agreed upon between the supplier and the buyer in writing shall exceed 45 days. So even if they have agreed for 2 months, the maximum will be 45 days from the day of acceptance or day of deemed acceptance. Now, section 16 regarding the interest. Section 15 is regarding the liability of making payment, that you have to make payment within 45 days. That is the maximum period provided. After that, in case payment is not made within 45 days, the legal action can be initiated. In case legal action has to be initiated, interest has to be calculated. That is provided under section 16. Where any buyer fails to make payment of the amount to the supplier, as required under section 15, the buyer shall, notwithstanding anything contained in any agreement, meaning thereby, even if there is an agreement, this section overrides it, and the supplier or in any law for the time being in force, be liable to pay compound interest. Even if they have agreed that only 4% interest or 6% simple interest will be payable, section 16 says no. This provision will override it. Be liable to pay compound interest with monthly rests to the supplier on the amount from the appointed day. Means, although the credit allowed is for 45 days as per section 15, but now it says the interest has to be started from the appointed day, means after 15 days. Deemed acceptance 15 दिन के बाद आपका interest का meter will start running. Or as the case may be, from the day immediately following the date agreed upon at 3 times the bank rate of interest notified by the Reserve Bank. This Reserve Bank is the Reserve Bank of India. The bank rate it notifies from time to time. Like currently the bank rate is around 5.5%. So the supplier will be able to claim 17.5% rate of interest. Now, recovery of the amount due. Section 17. For any goods supplied or services rendered by the supplier, the buyer shall be liable to pay the amount with interest. Now we can have the correlation of section 17 and section 22. 22 requires the buyer to mention in his statement of account he has to disclose certain amounts regarding the principal amount due and all these amounts. And this says, for the goods supplied or services rendered by the supplier, the buyer shall be liable to pay the amount with interest thereon as provided under section 16. Now comes the most important section, that is section 18. This is the litigation, how it will start and how it goes. The first step in this is by way of conciliation. A reference or an application or a single page will be filed. The Act does not talk of online, what I was saying. On the online portal, one has to upload the bills or the purchase order and bills, in case the purchase order is in writing. Any agreement if it is there. There is limitation of uploading the documents on online portal. 3 or 4 documents can be uploaded. And that notice will automatically go from the government side to the email address and the mobile number of the person concerned. And he will get a 15 days notice that please make this payment within 15 days. And this payment is due as claimed by the supplier. In case the payment is not made within 15 days, then this reference under section 18(1) is to be filed. Although it is not provided under the Act, as an advocate, I also had to face this. I went there and said that this is my reference. And they said, sir, we can't accept this reference. You first have to file online. I asked them that it is nowhere provided under the Act or the rules. They said, sir, central government has issued some notification, not the state governments. And being state government, we have to follow that. And now everything is being done through that e-Samadhan, MSME Samadhan portal. Section 18 says, notwithstanding 18(1), yes, notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being in force, any party to a dispute may, with regard to any amount due under section 17. So the amount is, section 17 is principal plus interest. Make a reference to the Micro and Small Enterprises Facilitation Council, what in short we call is MSEFC, like Haryana SCFC, and same is the Punjab. On receipt of a reference under subsection 1, the council shall either itself conduct conciliation as in the Arbitration Conciliation Act, in the matter, or seek the assistance of any institution or center providing alternative dispute resolution services by making a reference to such an institution or center for conducting conciliation, and the provisions of section 65 to 81 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act shall apply to such dispute as if the conciliation was initiated under part 3 of that act. So this is very simple, that reference is made, conciliation is they will take up the matter for conciliation. But what if conciliation fails? Subsection 3 of section 18, where the conciliation initiated under subsection 2 is not successful and stands terminated. This is very, very important, because most of the litigation which is coming to our High Court is on this very ground, that there is no order of termination of conciliation passed by the council. Either Punjab, Haryana, or to the Shimla High Court also, in Shimla also, earlier what they used to say is, they just used to tell the parties that since you have not been able to conciliation has failed, now we are appointing so and so person as arbitrator. So only on this ground, the proceedings used to be challenged before the High Court in a writ petition, that see there is no order of termination of conciliation, and therefore the appointment of arbitrator itself is bad. So this is one of the major, this used to be one of the major ground for challenge. Without any settlement between the parties, the council shall either itself take up the dispute for arbitration, or refer it to the institution or center providing alternative dispute resolution services for such arbitration, and provision of Arbitration Conciliation Act 1996 shall then apply to the disputes as if arbitration was in pursuance of an arbitration agreement referred to in subsection 1 of section 7 of that act. Meaning thereby, there can be a situation where there is no arbitration agreement between the parties. In the earlier webinar, in which Vishalji was referring to the arbitration, he was giving us the entire background of Arbitration and Conciliation Act starting from 1931, 1940 and 1996 Act. So one of the contention was that there has to be a agreement. And recent judgment, Shekharji had referred to recent judgment in 2019-20 only, that even if there is some clause in the agreement, which in turns looks like that there can be some resolution to the dispute between the parties by way of some amicable settlement, even then arbitration can be invoked. Now this can be a situation, a new situation, where there is no agreement at all, no written agreement at all. Only an oral order on phone, and the person supplies the goods. There is no arbitration. But under this section, subsection 3, there can be an arbitration in that case also. This is a very unique situation, we can say, in law. Now, subsection 4, notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being enforced, the Micro and Small Enterprises Facilitation Council or the center providing alternative dispute resolution services shall have jurisdiction to act as an arbitrator or conciliator under this section in a dispute between the supplier located within its jurisdiction. So it is like turning the CPC upside down. One used to go to the place of that person from whom you have to take money. Here the person is filing a case where he is situated and where he is registered with the MSEFC, and the buyer can be anywhere in the country. So this is also in the welfare of the micro and small enterprise, subsection 4. Every reference made under section shall be decided within a period of 90 days from the date of making such a reference. In this, I would like to just share that Haryana is doing wonderful in this, and they are deciding the references. May not be in 90 days, maybe in 180 days, but they are doing it very fast, and they are number 1 in the country for that. And Punjab is lagging. They are not deciding the references, pending for last even 6-7 years. One has to come in a writ petition to get it time bound and get it decided within 90 days. Only thereafter they do it. Now, the matter was referred in arbitration. Award has come. We generally think that thereafter the award will be challenged under section 34 and all that normal procedure will follow. Only one and the last important aspect of this is section 19, which says that no challenge can be made to the award passed under section 18 without payment of 75% of the awarded amount. this section 19, no application for setting aside any decree, award or other order made either by the council or by an institution or center providing alternative dispute resolution services to which a reference is made by the council shall be entertained by any court unless the appellant, not being a supplier, this is obvious, has deposited with it 75% of the amount in terms of the decree, award, or as the case may be, the other order in the manner directed by such court. Provided that, now this talks of that how that can be given to the buyer, the supplier. Provided that pending disposal of the application to set aside the decree, award or order, the court shall order that such percentage of the amount deposited shall be paid to the supplier as it considers reasonable under the circumstances of the case, subject to such conditions as it deems necessary to impose. So once the payment is deposited, it will not keep lying in the court itself. We can get the payment released and the supplier can benefit out of it. Now, before resting my case, I would say section 21 I will refer. Composition of the, because this all we need to know, that what is the composition. These days challenge is to the various tribunals and everything on the basis of their composition only. Like RERA has been challenged on the basis of composition and all. Composition of Micro and Small Enterprises Facilitation Council. The Micro and Small Enterprises Facilitation Council shall consist of not less than 3, but maximum 5 members. One I say is Director of Industries, by whatever name called, or any other officer not below the rank of such director in the department of the state government having administrative control of the small scale industries, or as the case may be, micro, small and medium enterprise. So one member is the Director of Industries in general parlance we say. One or more office bearers or representatives of association of micro or small industries or enterprise in the state. So industries representation is also there. Now next is one or more representatives of the banks and financial institutions lending to micro or small enterprise. Initially, I was surprised that why it is required, why banking or the financial institution person is required. And first was that maybe they are required to check the calculations and all. But later on, I came to know that why it has been inserted the officials of the banks and financial institutions is that in case the payment of a micro or a small enterprise is delayed, and in that case, his loan gets affected. Mostly it happens because almost all the businessmen takes one or the other kind of loan. At least the banking and financial institutions have the knowledge and the notice regarding the reasons why the payments are getting delayed. It's not that they will go soft on the person taking the loan, but it is the case where at least they know the real reason. And section 22, which I had referred, and I will again remind of this definition of supplier in section 2N, where the supplier is also now covered. If we just correlate all this, a supplier who is purchasing the goods from a micro or a small enterprise and supplying it further, he is a trader. His payments get delayed. He is not getting any interest and he is not having any mechanism to recover that amount. In turn, the payment of the manufacturer will get affected, the person who was manufacturing. And this is the cycle, that everything will get affected and delayed. So in order to sort it out, they have included the supplier also, that he can also claim the interest on the delayed payments under this 2006 Act, and so as micro or a small enterprise. Now, this is it. Subsection 4I also I'll just mention. Person, one or more persons having special knowledge in the fields, section 21, yes. One or more persons having special knowledge in the field of industry, finance, law, trade or commerce. So this is the basic constitution of the tribunal. Most of the states have it. Punjab has recently made certain rules. That rule making is also provided in this very act. I will not refer to it. I'm just telling section 29 and section 30. Section 29 empowers the center to make rules, and section 30 empowers the states to make rules. So what Punjab has done now is they have given powers to various deputy commissioners. Instead of the director of industries who was sitting here in Udyog Bhavan, he was handling cases and cases were getting delayed. Now he has given powers to various deputy commissioners at Mohali, Gobindgarh, Ludhiana, Jalandhar, Amritsar. So they all are doing it. One last thing, I think I have taken sufficient time. One last thing to just note it, that only micro or small can file this case. Although the act is called micro, small and medium enterprise, but the case can be filed under this act only by micro or a small enterprise. Because the definition of this composition, subsection 1, which I had read, we generally miss it. It says the Micro and Small Enterprise Facilitation Council only. 21(1). In flow, generally we miss it. It only talks of micro and small enterprise. So no medium enterprise, even if it has filed its memorandum, it is registered, but it cannot claim any interest under this act. They will have to go under the simple civil suit. And only 2-3 more points, just which are we called as by experience, which it has come. There is no court fees in this. Only Haryana has 3,500 rupees as what they call as the filing charges. Chandigarh has 2,500 or 0.1% they charge, and Punjab has no court fees at all. Himachal also doesn't have any court fee on this. So this is the best solution we can give to our client. If someone comes in and says that I have to recover this amount, we generally go to a civil suit or we go against company in NCLT or somewhere. I think that this alternative dispute resolution, the topic of today's webinar, is also MS-MED Act as an best alternative, we can say.
Thank you, Saurabh. That was really nice. Saurabh, in fact, I'd really want that, probably others would also want it. Before we start with our question answer round and everything, I'd like to, either if you could just give us the checkpoints as to how to go. Suppose our client comes to me. Now, what is it I need to do? I should give notice, then conciliation, then reference. How is it? Just can you give me a checklist in short?
Yes, in short is that first of all, he has to have filed his memorandum.
The person who has to,
who
can file a case.
To file a case.
Okay.
There are different judgments. One says that at the time when he has taken the orders, at the time of purchase order itself, he should have been registered.
Okay.
1 or 2 judgments have recently come. One is in 2015-16, I think, and one is recent in 2019, which says that a small enterprise, a person who is trading, is registered with the taxing department, either earlier with GST or with VAT or with now earlier with Central Excise and now with the GST. A person is an existing enterprise. Maybe he has not filed his memorandum. And section 8 also says that at his discretion he can file. He just have to show that he was working at that point of time. Obviously, that is why he was given the order. He was existing. So he has to file his memorandum. Some are filing at a later stage also, but the best case is that a person, in case he has filed his memorandum at the very point when he got the orders. This is number 1, the memorandum. Number 2 is that he has the bills. Without bill, you can't. Done it by way of bill, 50% without bill. So you can claim only what you have done with bills. Because we are talking of law. Nothing else will do. Okay. After checking all this purchase order, memorandum and bills, next come is checking his current status. He is existing. It is not that he is not existing at all. our client also and the other side also. The cases comes where they say that, sir, now it has closed, the company has closed, or it has gone in NCLT or somewhere. Then there is no point sending the notice. This is the general thing which we check otherwise also. And then comes the procedure part. There is MSME Samadhan portal. There are certain checkpoints you have to fill in your name, Udyog Aadhaar number and all. That memorandum generates the Udyog Aadhaar memorandum number. So it is generated, and thereafter a 15 days notice automatically goes. Click the button and notice goes. It is not that you have to take a printout and send it. Online notice goes. After the notice, you have to wait for 15 days, and on 16th day, you can file your reference, what we call. There is a proper format for Himachal also and for Haryana also. Punjab and UT have no format. In a normal petition kind of a thing, we can file our reference. So in that reference, we generally pray for award itself, but and that conciliation takes almost 2 to 3 months time, and thereafter it is referred to the arbitration.
Okay.
They are deciding within 90 days, the arbitrators.
Okay.
And after that, I will only refer to 2 judgments, although there are many by various high courts, Bombay, Andhra Pradesh and all. The most important judgment in this is the Snedeep infrastructure, the Snedeep structures. This is 2010 SEC, 3 SEC 34. This is on the aspect of deposit of 75%. Because that is the most important aspect of this. Otherwise,
so that has been upheld. That has been upheld.
No, that Snedeep is by the Honorable Supreme Court.
So it has upheld the provision that 75% has to be reversed.
Yes, they have upheld.
Okay.
In fact, the provision of Section 19 has been upheld by Division Bench of our High Court also in Mahesh Infrastructure. But they have diluted the provision, I will say, by referring to the PSPCL judgment in VAT case, where the issue was regarding the pre-deposit in case of VAT. That judgment, though it has been overruled by the, it has been that PSPCL judgment in a subsequent judgment by our High Court also and by the Honorable Supreme Court also, that has been set aside, that PSPCL judgment. And now the law is that you have to, if it is a mandatory provision under the provisions of the Act, it is mandatory. So otherwise, the division bench had diluted by saying that the presiding officer, the judge listening, hearing the Section 34 objections, he can always modify the deposit of 75% depending upon the facts and circumstances of the case. And recently, the single bench, although that is also, I think they have not referred to the Snedeep infrastructure, that is by Justice, that single bench judgment I had it. By Justice Jayashree Thakur, that is in case of State of Punjab versus Jai Bhushan Malik. In that, the Honorable Judge has said that there is no, this provision at all is not mandatory. So this is all, these were the checkpoints we need to, it's a very short and crisp act and no complications at all.
And the execution is the same as an arbitration award.
Yes.
It's in the same manner.
The same. The Chandigarh rules have a different thing. Chandigarh rule says that they have given powers to the Tehsildar for attachment. In case the property is within the jurisdiction, he can straight away go for the attachment of the property under the Chandigarh rules.
And in Punjab, one is supposed to file it with the deputy commissioners. It will automatically refer it to the board or whatever. Or deputy commissioners have formed a board.
No, in Punjab, they are not having any panel of arbitrators.
Okay.
The deputy commissioner or the additional deputy commissioner, as in Mohali they are doing the arbitration themselves.
So all the persons have to file it at the district level now.
At the district level, not all districts. They have the clusters. They have the clusters.
Okay, they have the clusters.
Punjab, they have the clusters. In Haryana, they have the panel of arbitrators. the retired district and session judges, some chartered accountants. Some
But again at district level.
No. They have central level. In Haryana, they have it at a central level.
So where is it?
The Director of Industries,
Chandigarh, Sector 17.
Sector 17.
Yes. Oh,
now they are shifting, I think, in Sector 4 or Sector 2, Panchkula.
Okay, that's great. And Sarthak has a question. Sarthak, you can unmute yourself and please go on. We'll start with the question answers now. Sarthak, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes. Hanji Sarthak, please go on.
Yes, you can hear. So my question is a practical question. But if my debtor is a company, is NCLT a better remedy in your opinion or MSME Act?
In case it is in a good shape, yes, I'll answer. If it is in a good shape, there are two aspects to it. If your supplier is good with the principal amount only, he says that mera principal aa raha hai and I don't want to ruin my relationship with the company.
Okay.
Then maybe the NCLT notice will do. You will get your money and maybe you will have good relations.
Okay.
But in case your amount is huge, which can happen, if amount is good, then definitely I will always say that MSME is the best remedy, because you will get 3 times the bank rate of interest, and that also compounding. Meaning thereby in today's scenario, if we are talking of 5.5% as the bank rate, meaning thereby 16.5% accumulated rate of interest at 3 times, then with compounding, it will come to somewhere around, I think, 19% rate of interest, which you will not get in NCLT in any circumstance.
Okay.
Yes.
How to determine that whether the case against the company which we are filing the case or the entity which we are filing the case falls between micro, small, medium? Is there any portal like in companies
No,
you can
against. No, not against.
Against you can file any.
You can file anyone. You can file against anyone, even in individual, company, or anyone.
But filing can be only by micro and small.
Micro or small.
Even so government, against government.
So, yes, against government.
So what is the purpose of then saying micro, small, medium enterprises? Then medium goes, that means?
No. That medium is important for the other benefits.
Like?
The other benefits like credit facilities.
Okay.
And like they get certain concessions while participating in a tender. Like the bank guarantee and all. Sometimes they get a waiver. In some tenders, they say that micro will have to deposit only 5% of the bank guarantee instead of 100%. So, अगर 1 crore करना है सिर्फ 5 लाख से काम.
So registration under this act entitles you for other benefits which the government might be offering from time to time.
Yes.
That is that.
All these schemes, you become entitled to claim all these schemes.
Okay. Karan, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Mr. Saurabh? Mr. Saurabh, in mid of your address, you mentioned that the MSME Act, there is a non-obstante clause, and it will have an overriding impact on Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. Yes. I came across a query while I was hearing you that suppose there is an organization which is working as a contractor for a government organization and falls within the ambit of small or micro industries from the perspective of their investment, as well as from the perspective of their turnover. But in their clause, they have an arbitration clause saying that in terms of arbitration, in case of any dispute, you will approach to us first. And in that case, if it doesn't work out, you can initiate arbitration proceedings under 1996 Act. Yes. In that eventuality, that person will be entitled to raise his grievance in the commission set up by MSME Act, or he is liable to go under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act.
Section 24.
Okay.
Section 24 reads, the provisions of section 15 to 23 shall have effect notwithstanding anything inconsistent therewith contained in any other law for the time being in force.
So deholds the clause which specifically says that you have to go arbitration under 96 Act, and an agreement between the parties there to that effect, they can still initiate proceedings under MSME Act.
Yes.
There is a Justice Sandhavale's judgment also, Sauravan.
Yes, that is in CWP number 18828 of 2015.
Okay.
That is by the Fleet Guard India Private Limited.
Okay.
Heat guard filters, I think.
Okay.
Are you done?
They had the same objection regarding the maintainability.
Saurabh, while you were reading it out, everything, you had mentioned something that if you send a notice, then someone would file it in NCLT Bombay. I could not understand that. Can you repeat that? You were saying something like when a notice is issued, then on your behalf, an application would be filed in NCLT, something like that.
Yes.
What was that? Can you explain that, please?
Yes. Now what have they done is the central government, they have engaged a company. This is also a Government of India company to facilitate the micro or the small enterprise, whosoever files the case and gets an award. So now that award is to be executed. So for that execution of award, in case the debtor is a company, we can take this award to the NCLT.
Okay.
But now the difficulty will be that suppose supplier is at Punjab, Ludhiana, and the buyer is at Bombay and registered at Bombay as a company. But you will be required to do, you will have to go to NCLT Bombay. And maybe the buyer the supplier will say for 10 lakh rupees or for maybe 8 lakh rupees. Because all cases, we can't expect that there will be more than 50 lakh or 1 crore. So it may not be viable. If it is not viable and amount is only 5 lakh or 8 lakh or 10 lakh rupees, in that case, government has provided that their company, the Government of India company, will file NCLT petition on your behalf at Bombay.
That's wonderful. Achha, that's very nice. So, okay. Otherwise, the supplier is at liberty to file wherever, if he's in Chandigarh, and even if the company is of Bombay, he can file it in Chandigarh.
He only has to file in Chandigarh. He can't file it anywhere else.
Right. And then do we say that like IBC code has been suspended now, MSME would still continue? It will still be a bypass?
MSME Act will definitely continue. Yes,
because
it is continuing.
IBC would stop, not MSME. So we have something more to look upon. Yes, Akhilesh, you can please unmute yourself. Akhilesh, go ahead. Akhilesh has a question. Yes, Akhilesh.
Saurabh, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Saurabh, I have two set of minor questions. One is that जैसा कि आपने composition बताई है section 21 में, section 21 subclause 4 was with regard to that a member from the law background can also be in one of the compositions.
Yes.
So what I wanted to understand was that is there can a practicing advocate be also included? And moreover, if it is a practicing advocate, if the answer is yes, then is there any experience required?
No, it is not, because state government generally makes the rules. Like in Chandigarh, we earlier had Mr. Arvind Modgill, and now we have Mr. Chandel.
Right.
So they both were UT councils, and they both were the members of the facilitation council.
And as far as the second question is concerned, one of my clients was of the view that that a subsidy was to be claimed from the Department of Industries. The subsidy was sanctioned to him around 96 or 97 by the Department of Industries itself. So he wanted, rather than filing a writ petition, because writ petitions are being entertained, I have also filed few writ petitions before the court, but he said that now, as if now the MSME Act is in place and his company is also registered MSME. So why don't he approach for claiming the subsidy from department under the Act rather than filing a writ petition, which is a more easier method? So,
there is a very rare judgment by Justice Muralidhar in 2000.
I never knew the contents of the Act and what is the basic idea. So I just wanted to understand. Maintainability hai ya nahi hai?
See, although as per my understanding, it will not be maintainable, because neither you have provided any service nor you have supplied anything.
Right.
But surprisingly, there is a judgment, a single judgment which I was able to lay hands was by Justice Muralidhar in 2010, while he was sitting single in Delhi.
Right.
He had given judgment on this very aspect regarding the subsidy only, and in the end, in the concluding para, he has observed that party can claim interest under the MSME Act on this delayed release of subsidy. If I can just check if I have the citation of that, I can share it with you.
मेरा थोड़ा सा इसमें ये point था, I think you can clarify it better. मेरा इसमें ये point था कि in addition to this, no doubt no service has been provided, but yes, there is a sanction and there is a valid commitment on the part of the department itself by saying that yes, you are eligible for this amount.
See, the answer to this is section 15.
Great. Okay.
We see section 15 because
Right.
chapter 5 is the chapter relevant for this.
Yeah.
And section 15, if we see, it says where any supplier supplies any goods or renders any services to the buyer.
Yeah.
The
Right.
buyer shall make payment.
Right. So he doesn't
So-
fall in that category. Right.
Yes. For the delayed payments, I don't think that maybe if there is some notification by the state government that for claiming the subsidy he can come under this act, I don't know.
Right.
But to my
As far as that,
knowledge,
so as far as that judgment is concerned, जहाँ तक आपने बताया, this is what I understand, that if High Court allows the writ petition for the payment of subsidy, then thereafter the interest part can be claimed under the MSME Act.
that is what I was also surprised to
That
read
again
that
becomes
judgment.
contradictory because still the service has not been provided and he's not the buyer at all.
Yes.
So
That's why I'm saying that was the observation of the Honorable Court.
right.
Right.
Delhi
High Court.
ठीक है. तो
You can share it later, Saurabh. है ना?
Yes, Karan, you can go on. Karan, you want to
Karan
ask?
is
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
I will share it later.
Sagar also has a question. Sagar, you want to also ask? Sagar, you can unmute yourself. Yes, Sagar, you can unmute yourself. Yes, Sagar.
Yeah, I hope I'm audible now.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Saurabh. Saurabh, just a quick one. So we are going back to the definition of supplier. So when you mentioned that, a supplier of a micro and a small enterprise would also come under the act. My question is that if a supplier has a multiple, source from which he takes goods and supplies further, he's trading with multiple brands and multiple enterprises. So is it necessary only to have one or two small or micro enterprises, or you need to be an exclusive supplier of micro and small to be registered under this act?
Not at all. See, the definition, if we see it again, it will depend upon the transaction. I am a trader. I am having supplies from 100 people. Like I am trading in a hardware shop. I'm having a hardware shop and I have hundreds of items. But out of that, 50 items are by the small or micro enterprise. And I have supplied those items to someone, maybe to an individual or some institution or some company. In that case, I can definitely claim it. There is no bar. And people are claiming.
So it's not necessary to have, as a supplier, to be registered under MSMED. It's not necessary to have all
No.
your...
As a supplier, you are required to get yourself registered.
Yeah.
Because without registration, what I am saying is, prior to 2017, one could have filed directly by saying that I am registered as a small scale enterprise and no registration under the MSMED Act is required, which the definition also reads so. But from the day they have started the online notice part on their portal, unless you have your registration, you have your unique Aadhaar number, the Udyog Aadhaar memorandum, you can't file it.
Yeah, I got that. What I was asking was that if you, your number of enterprises that you're associated with, if that is, the small scale, and micro enterprises are just one or two, and I'm dealing with other enterprises which are not covered under MSME.
That will not be of any problem.
That also. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That is good.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, Karan, go on.
This one I left while I was asking my question, and often the question and answer session gets more interesting. So it came to me that do the adjudicating authority has any means and manner to deal with some interim orders as well? Because under Arbitration Act, under section 9 and 17, interim orders can be passed. But is it feasible for Saurabhji, for the adjudicating authority under MSME Act to pass some interim measures for the organization, for the benefit of the organization? Because usually bank guarantees or other things are withheld by the other party? Can something with regard to that also be done?
See, till the time they are acting as a conciliator, they cannot, because conciliation is
Conciliation,
in the
yes.
earlier webinar also, section 65 to section 81 it was referred. And after the conciliation, when the matter is in arbitration, then all the powers which an arbitrator has under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, all the orders, even regarding the production of documents and all those things, taking evidence, everything can be done. Even if it is referred to some judicial person, like some retired session judge and all, or even if it is taken by the authority itself, the council itself, they can always pass the orders.
Okay. And just a small more query, it is related to my previous query only. While the organization, is it mandatory to have the turnover requirements, which you said that 25 crores or 10 crore requirement is there? At times what happens is that a contractor has varied projects and his cost varies from project to project. Like one project is of 5 crores, the other one is of 15. But his turnover may not be exceeding. So will his qualification for raising a dispute would be determined by making composite assessment of all his projects, or with regard to the project which is in dispute?
This has to be a prospective query, because this provision will come into effect from 1st of July.
But
so
technically his net worth has to be what is to be seen. Net worth is everything. Because no, suppose he's having 10 projects worth 100 crores, he can't qualify in under micro and small. How would he be a micro? Now Reliance says my project is, this one is only 5 crores, his net is 1,50,000 crores. So according to me, ultimately what his net, the entire net of his projects would have to be seen to be qualified, according to me, what I could gather. Because again, same thing, we take the example of Reliance saying that, see, this project is only worth 2 crores. So consider me as micro. Can't be micro or small. So that can't be. So probably when one is, the entity is being registered under MSME, then their entire projects have to be seen, whatever is there. It can't be probably limited, can't be selective to say that this one is, for this you are MSME, for this you are large. It can't be. That will be an ambiguity according to me. Subject to corrections.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the very simple term which is used now in the notification of 1st of June is the turnover, the annual turnover. So the turnover will depend upon your balance sheet. Depend upon your balance sheet, the number of projects or the cost of the project may not be relevant. What will be relevant is the turnover. And that turnover in case of builders is determined on various factors.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else for the question? Muniji, you wanted to ask a question?
Yes.
Saurabh,
the
limitation is 3 years, right?
No.
Getting the recovery.
Yes, in recovery it is 3 years.
Recovery it is 3 years. If beyond 3 years, Section 18, can he take the shield of Section 18 of the Limitation Act, the acknowledgement?
That obviously we can take, otherwise Section 22 comes to your rescue. Section 22. Section 22 of the MSMED Act requires the buyer, in case he is getting the accounts audited, which generally all these companies...
As per Section 18, it is the admission of an existing liability of the debt. Yes. So if there is no admission, then...
No. It requires, I am saying that it mandates. In case he is not doing it, then Section 26 is the, I think it provides, 27 provides for the penalty for contravention of Section 8 or Section 22 or Section 26. It provides for the penalty. In case a person is not doing it, which is required to do, but only in order to avoid his liability and to show his account books good, he is not mentioning that this is the amount due towards the micro or the small enterprise. There is amendment in the Companies Act also. In 2014, I think, if I am not wrong, 14 or 13 it was, there was an amendment in the Companies Act in which they have amended the form which one has to file annually, the company has to file annually with the registrar, in this they have to mention regarding the amount due and all, which was otherwise also required to be disclosed in their balance sheet. For the companies, they have made it. For the limited companies, the private limited, public limited companies, they are mandated under the Companies Act also to mention.
Sagar,
So
you
in
want to ask
case they
something?
Yeah, I
case
just
they
wanted
mention
to
it,
say, Saurabh,
Mhm.
Saurabh, can you
Yes, sir.
share notification of 1st June, which will be with effect from 1st July?
1st
So if
July.
you have
Yes,
that, if
I'll
you
do.
can share.
I'll send.
Please send it on the WhatsApp group. Yeah.
I'll
Anyone
send
else
it.
for the question? Sushil ji, anything? Nilesh?
I just wanted to ask Saurabh that like in Arbitration Act, there is limitation provided for filing objections under Section 34. Is there any time period prescribed in this act also? Because in case the time period is not prescribed, then I think that the Arbitration and Conciliation Act will be a better remedy than this act. Otherwise, the limitation will generally fall under the Limitation Act, and anybody can file the condonation of delay applications, etc.
But he says once arbitrator is appointed, the Arbitration Act comes into play. So everything would come into play probably.
Not everything. Not everything. I will just point it out there. Not everything. But whatever is not provided in this act, like in case we say everything will apply, then the interest mandate or the post-award interest will also flow from the Arbitration Act. But since it is provided under this act that till the date the last penny has been paid, the interest will be compounded. It has to be compound interest under Section 16. So that will apply. And for the query Nileshji has asked, for challenging the award passed under this, not Section 19 will apply, Section 34 will apply, and once Section 34 applies for challenging the award, then limitation also is under Section 34 only.
Okay.
And Section 19 only mandates, and a proviso we can say has been added, that before challenging the award under Section 34, what you are required to do is to deposit 75% of the amount. That is the biggest reason and the best reason I always advise my clients to file a case under MSMED Act instead of NCLT or anywhere else, because one, they get interest at the 3 times the bank rate of interest. Secondly, in case it is to be challenged, 75% is to be deposited.
And what if a person falls under MSME, he is dealing with a government department, some government department, and there is a order passed by a government department by, let's say, additional chief secretary or chief secretary, and simultaneously the MSME challenge that order or the dispute among both the parties before the MSME board. There is an arbitration agreement also between the parties in running contract. The department goes into Arbitration and Conciliation Act, and MSME goes before the board, and the board appoint arbitrator before the appointment of arbitrator by the under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act by the state government. But the arbitrator so appointed has retired from a post which is lower than the post of a person who has passed an order against MSME. Then what to be do? What to be done?
On the last one, you again come. In case the person who is appointed,
in case the person who is appointed as an arbitrator by the board, he prior to his retirement has held post lower than the post of the person who has passed an order for the government, like ACS has passed an order, but some director etc. is appointed by the MSME board. Then whether the retired director can still pass an order against the order passed by the ACS?
Yes, see, that may be a totally arbitrable question, or the we can say that that can be challenged or that can be done, but otherwise, to my understanding, there is no impediment in that.
Okay.
See, a person can act as an arbitrator, and there are certain bars under the schedule which has now come in. And mostly in Haryana, they have the panel of arbitrators as the retired district and session judges.
Okay.
They don't have, because your question, if I am not wrong, is coming from that very angle only, that in case of Haryana or Punjab, in case like some electricity department or some PWD department or someone,
There was the case with me with regard to solar department. The case came to me, my client was MSME. While dealing with the matter, I was of the opinion that other party can challenge it on the ground, that the order passed by the ACS cannot be set aside by a junior authority who has retired from the junior post. Though that question was never taken up by the other authority, other person. So it was saved. And secondly, limitation also, I was not able to find anything on limitation. So that is why I specifically asked you. So now, as far as this topic is concerned, I will tell you this is such a relevant topic in today's time that right now, just parallel to us, FICCI is also hosting a webinar on same topic.
We are one hour in advance.
Yes.
I just wanted to add something to what Nilesh was saying. As Saurabh had mentioned earlier, that in Punjab, the deputy commissioners, certain clusters have been made, and deputy commissioners and additional deputy commissioners are holding, are acting as arbitrators. So, Nilesh, there is the answer. So, if comes a scenario in Punjab where the additional chief secretary or somebody, a higher post has passed order or which is under challenge. So the deputy commissioner and the additional deputy commissioner are already
satisfied. Yes.
So, yeah.
And this also, I think, amounts to some delegation of power which can't be done otherwise.
Yeah.
No, which one?
Giving powers to deputy commissioner to.
No, that is under that is under the state rules only. They have formulated the rules. They have notified the rules under section 30. And otherwise, the composition of the tribunal, the council, that provides that a person as a director of industries or the person who is having the same rank. So director of industries is generally a IS officer, and a deputy commissioner or additional deputy commissioner is also IS.
They all are lower in rank than ACS. And in most of the cases, ACS passes the order. In case some recovery has to be made or some payments have to be stopped, the order are always by ACS.
Yeah, otherwise also tell you, most of the cases comes interstate. There are very rare cases when person has to claim from his own state. Like a person is a supplier from Haryana, he is supplying to Ajmer or to Jaipur or to Jodhpur, all these electricity boards, or to MP, Chhattisgarh, all across the country. He will never like to fight with his own state. वो अपनी स्टेट को तो कहेगा भैया पैसा दे दे जैसे मर्जी दे दे.
So are we saying that usually state specific payments are made with much convenience in our respective states, and outsiders are treated like a lesser child?
They accept more conveniently.
More convenient.
Any more questions? Any more questions before we wrap up? It's 5:30. Anyone else have questions?
GEM portal जो है, what is this GEM portal है, इसका भी थोड़ा सा बता दो. क्या? There is a portal GEM portal जो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का है, वो GEM गवर्नमेंट का पोर्टल है ना, जिसपे करना पड़ता है सभी कुछ है. ये I don't know.
नहीं, GEM पोर्टल तो नहीं है मेरे ख्याल से. वो MSME समाधान पोर्टल अगर हम देखेंगे ना, we search it, it is MSME समाधान.
नहीं, वो MSME का तो है, बट कई कंपनीज जैसे GEM पोर्टल पे रजिस्टर्ड होती हैं. एक
I am not aware of that. That GEM portal.
That is government e-marketplace.
That may be
ऑनलाइन सप्लाईज वगैरह होती है, सब कुछ ऑनलाइन चलता है उस पे. तो उस पे कोई सप्लाई की है उसके अकॉर्डिंग, तो वो भी MSME में कवर होएगा.
MSME में कवर होने के लिए तो आपकी
वो माइक्रो स्मॉल होनी चाहिए. माइक्रो बस इतना काफी है.
इतना काफी है.
बायर जो मर्जी हो.
बायर तो जो मर्जी हो ना, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया हो.
गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया.
See, I am doing a case. I am defending that cable factory, Chandigarh, in one of the cases.
I have referred you a case. Check your email. Right now. मुझे समझ नहीं आया क्या करना है, तो I have referred to you. Okay. Thank you.
I think it is time to conclude.
Yes.
I take this opportunity. Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you very much. In fact, this act is one which I had been looking forward to since long. And if you remember, we've been discussing quite often in the court as well.
Yes.
And this is one of the act where My first case was against you only in Punjab, where you were the one. And so it's a very interesting. Thank you so much for giving us such a beautiful insight and the practical aspect of this MSME Act, which is quite a requirement today, especially in terms of the fact that there will be a lot of defaults, and also that IBC stands suspended. So this would really come into play. Thank you very much for explaining us and telling us all about the Act, and we hope to see you in future also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vishal.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you so much.
For listening so patiently. I may have missed certain things, but
you answered all the questions very beautifully.